Hello, all you knuckleheads. Hello, all you happy lost souls. How y'all doing out there? Um, this video is going to kind of just be more focused on artifact efficacy and efficacy meaning intent in design, in pattern. And it's when we can say that this is definitely not just a triangle shaped rock, or this is just not naturally broken rock with a sharp edge. When you start finding repeated efficacy or pattern or the same shape and the same material. And I pulled these artifacts because these are all found in really the same spot, same deposit. Actually, it was two different deposits, same creek. But we're going to see efficacy in tool design and material. Now, this is really high-grade soapstone. It's very soft if you look at this, and this is a very high iron content. Actually, a lot of this limestone, you can kind of see the iron burning through here, the orange in it, because of the high content. But I flipped this over, and you can see people from thousands of years ago. You could see their fingerprints in this stuff because they would get this wet and they would start just kind of sharpening it or rubbing it against a harder rock into the shape they needed. And that's why this stuff was so valuable. This soapstone or this pipestone, it was so easy to cut. You can even cut it into molds for metal tools later on. And to create, like you create a stone to create a wax mold, yada yada, to make a bronze or metal mold. But a lot of these tools, look at the edge work on that. It's the inside of a finger. And you see the cutting edge in this crazy crescent shape. You have another crazy crescent shape here. But here you have either a smoother and you have a cutting tool on the other edge. But again, you can feel people's fingerprints in it. You can see them. And my fingers are a bit dirty now from messing with these rocks, but yeah. Anyway, we've got a nice little celt here. It's like wedge-shaped celt. Very sharp still. This is soft material though, but it can still hold an edge very well. You can cut the hell out of things with a ceramic knife. The problem is if you come in contact with somebody that's got metal or something that's quartz or granite, it's going to bust this shit right down into pieces. It's not going to penetrate well because it's not as hard. But what you can see here is you can see this rust color coming out, and you can see this one strange point that I have never been really able to identify, and I've seen this in different materials across the board. It's extremely triangular with the point here, but the shafting technology is just to smooth out the whole back. So you would insert it and just have this point sticking forward, which is extreme because it has 3 cutting edges. It's a very, very smart broad point design and has 2 more cutting edges in the back. So it's almost like an airplane though. It's just very bizarre. Again though, you can see and feel people's fingers in this stuff. We got a knife blade, which is actually very Solutrean style, because their knife blades look very similar to ours. But then again, you can really see the fingerprints in it. Right there, you can see somebody's hand, and that's the stuff that makes you get goosebumps. We get these little. This is a little like efficacy pendant, like maybe even for like a child, like tied on his neck, or a pendant. It's a small like miniature efficacy of a tomahawk head. I have a couple other ones in there that are way more ornate. Again, this one's very clever. Look at this one. You can literally see that this was used for smoothing something over and over again, for rubbing on something. It takes the inside shape of somebody's finger. And this stone's naturally soft, but it's also a great polisher, a smoother. It's great for polishing wood and other stone. We still use the stuff today on garnet papers and sandpapers. This stuff's all over. The pennypack, especially right where I live, as it cuts up into the hills, cuts right into one of the largest veins of high-grade soapstone on the East Coast. It's being exploited by a lot of people. You follow the creek. This one was actually found up more towards, as the pennypack gets into Hatboro. This was recently discovered. I actually found this on a walk at a park I'm never really at, because I was meeting a friend up in Hatboro, and I'm like, yeah, this is the pennypack up here. Let me see if there's any similarities in tools. And it took me about 2 minutes, and I started finding soapstone tools everywhere. But these are everywhere. Yeah, there are so many of them that you fill up trays. There's not any point in taking them all, because it's like beaches of them. I'm not exaggerating. So you just, you take a few back that really stick with you. Like this one was really awesome. I found this kind of intact when the bank got washed out after a storm. And that's when you want to go artifact hunting. After rain and after storms, a few days after, especially meandering streams, after they settle back down, they flip all kinds of stuff up, new layers. And where the streams bend really hard, they dump a lot of sediment constantly, and you get these huge gravel bars. I don't think any of them are glacier related. I think there's a few spots in the stream that may have seen a freeze over during the last ice age at some point, and then the ice backed off. And that's why, I say they're quarries and not from glaciers, just pushing all artifacts into the area before the ice melted back, and you're seeing like the entire land that it moved over is massive artifacts, because all this stone, all this material is natively in this spot, and that's for other geological reasons. The pennypack runs on a fault line, as does some of the Wissahickon, and you can see it even more dramatically down there. What happens under the creek and under this fault line, the crust of the earth is shallower, and it opens up, and different periods of time it pushed parts of the mantle that are never supposed to touch oxygen up to the surface. And when this happened, all kinds of crazy elements, all kinds of crazy minerals formed. And that's why all over Willow Grove where I live, you got mineral springs this, you got mineral springs hot spring that. You had the Mineral Spring Hotel, which is a historic landmark, like the late 1800s. You had Willow Grove Park, and these mineral springs and tonic and bottling water stations, because there's special mineral water, and hot springs. Literally, Philadelphia was loaded with them too. The Swedish call it Philadelphia sauna. But like they're still there. You can go to these places, and I think they were venerated by the natives. I think that's why they came back, and that's why they buried some of these artifacts in place. And that's why you can, like, after storms and stuff, you can find them like as they were left, and they were left with meaning and covered up together, and they match each other. And like this, and these were all found in like the same area. This is not from there, that's not from there. These two were from the Solutrean site. I found them the same day I found these crazy, really, really old. This looks more Neolithic, New Stone Age type stuff by like smoothing a tool over and over again. But there's pitch on the back, so these are like all curved downward. These are like plowing and these are for clearing. And this is obviously for clearing wood or for scooping wood. So again, you're looking at more, and then now you see that artifact, that old pitch that's still hardened on there, or whatever was attaching it. But these are more farming tools that came after. And this stuff's newer, the soapstone stuff. The Solutreans used a whole different tool method. So this is from a time period that I would say is probably more Mesolithic, where they were smoothing stone, where they were Possibly the projectile point didn't matter as much because the bow technology got better. They were able to fire with greater velocity. You were killing smaller items. You didn't need as big or intricate of tools. A lot of like woodworking type stuff, like knives. And then obviously soapstone was also used to clean the body. Like some of these could have been, ancient grooming items. I don't really know. Like, or they're files. Some are obviously blades, like this one. And I think what they did is why this iron's being brought out is I think they realized this is iron-rich limestone, and we can bake it in a fire for a while, and our tool becomes way harder. Like this one was not baked yet. This one was found in situ. You have somebody in the process of making a knife or a spear, and they're using a planing tool for smoothing it out that's similar to this planing tool that is detached. So we got a detached planing tool here, but this planing tool got left on top of the tool that this guy was manufacturing. And it got left there. He just wasn't done with it, left or whatever, and earth covered it up, whatever. And he moved on. That shit, over time, more water leaked down in there because his limestone formed concrete essentially, and it fused itself together. Very, very bizarre. Or there's some kind of ancient cutting technique or liquefying the stone technique that I have no idea about. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure that has something to do with it as well. But I mainly wanted to talk about efficacy, like how you can tell if you're finding Native American artifacts or just funny looking rocks. There's different styles that different groups of people made, and they'll have all kinds of different funny names for whoever discovered them or whoever did work on it or whatever. I will tell you there's still amazing flint knappers out there, and these people are amazing because they're archaeologists essentially. They are reverse engineering an old craft to show the efficacy of that artifact. And they'll tell you that the Solutrean tools are some of the most advanced spear points ever made, and they're very diamond shaped. They were extremely thin and light, and they were bifacially flaked. Early on they were more like this. This is older than a Clovis here. And if we flip this over and we can see the percussion or the edge work, it's still razor sharp. The back is flaked all the way across. So this is unitarily flaked, but it's also flaked on both sides. It's percussioned out. They left the core here though. But this is a great example of something that wasn't Clovis. And using advanced, way lighter than a Clovis point, way sharper, way harder, and they're using some kind of iron-rich shale / soapstone here. And it's very Solutrean in style. I wish we had some bigger points. This shape of knife is very Solutrean. This is like a side profile of a seal with another one behind it. We know that they were hunting seals. This stuff's all very Solutrean, these little files and points. I have a couple really nice willow leaves or diamonds that are flaked, but they're tinier. I don't like to take. They're so thin under this tray. They're down in there. These are all little bifacially flaked points, and there is a willow leaf. It's black on one side, white on the other, bifacially flaked. I have a Solutrean tool up here. Again, it's bifacially flaked. This might have just been some kind of knife. It also, if you notice, has this has gold running through agate, and the backside got swallowed up. You see, there's some garnet in it by this super iron-rich galena. Lead and iron ore here, and this seems to have been heat treated, and I think it was cut that way to be shiny on one side, not on the other. But the Solutrean stuff, very, very thin. Again, this one, I don't even know how they were flaking this material, but they did it. It's still very sharp. We have to be careful with that on the edges, but you got this like leaf pattern. people in those days flew arrows of silver and gold. And you would think so with the way these look. At least they look like silver and gold. I want to show you another tray up here. These are some really old tools, like probably pre-Solutrean, but you could see the patina on here. This was obviously a cutting tool here on the front end. Another type of some kind of edge down here too. A lot of these tools you'll see have multi-function. These are absolutely beautiful. Find these in very old layers, starting right above these chert tools here. So it goes chert tools, then we find this. This is like a high-grade obsidian almost, or like some kind of flint. Then we have another tool here, which is incredible. It's got a lot of patina on it still, and it's razor sharp still on the edge there. And you can see like the quality of these tools, like and how they were made. They're still very sharp, and you can see the flaking right up into the edge there. And this is the much more advanced tool. And obviously we see all the patina from all the use. So where all this shiny stuff is probably the surface the person's hand was on. So you're getting a lot of this. So this is like a hide or cutting tool. You see another one here that is Efficacy. You see the design, and it's like a scalpel. So, I mean, you just don't, if you don't believe me, I mean, these are razor sharp. A lot of these you gotta hold, because like, you do the snap test, they don't break. And this has obviously got iron or something running through because it was heated, and it's heat treated. You can hear it chirping in my hand because it's very hard, it's hardened. We get these crazy tools, like look at this. This tool is cut perfectly right there, and this is some kind of hook or some kind of razor cutting implement. But these are what we find in these Solutrean style layers. We even get these crazy hooks, these fishing hook style pieces. Again, this thin agate, very intricate, very time-consuming work. It was mastery. It was art. It was beautiful. It wasn't a time where you were worried about getting slaughtered and you had to make a tool really quick, or you couldn't find the best quarries because you were just worried about being in war and dying, and you're beating each other with clubs tied to sticks. There was a lot of conflict in this archaeology, but in way more recent times, more during the Beaver Wars in the 1600s, 1800s, you see conflict, and then you see conflict again between year 500 BCE and 500 CE. So for about 1,000-year period there, and that seems more to be over resource and scarcity of resource in the overall archaeological record. In this record, you see things transitioning into a more Mayan feel with the Susquehannocks moving in, and the Proto-Susquehannock. And before that, you had Algonquin along here. I don't know if they settled along here too much. So here's a very good example of a shouldered Solutrean tool. And you've got a stem, which is some of the earliest stem work, but only one shoulder. And then you have this cutting edge that is flaked beautifully on both sides, all the way across. And it's still razor sharp. And like, I don't know how you can't see intent and efficacy in this. Mother Nature didn't take that black rock and shape it into a killing tool like that. We see one here that got smoothed out and polished over by the creek, but we can still see the scarring of the flaking running across both sides. And like I said, the scarcity of it does not mean that it's not there. And you can see it in the preform work. These are preforms of Solutrean tools. These are stamps, and these are such Solutrean shape. This kite shape, these diamond shapes, these are smaller spear points that are unfinished, but these are Solutrean by design. These would have went down the assembly line after they were stamped out. Here's another one that's in quartz, and they would have been worked by a master that was experienced in the napping. Not every preform would have been used because it's very time consuming, but there would have been some on deck, and some would have not passed the inspection of that person that was a master, and he would have thrown those aside and taken a better preform. We're not talking like they had machinery where things were coming out perfect. They had people doing something that was more common that everyone could do easier, like producing the preform, and then they had these people that were schooled in the actual finishing work, and some of these just may not have passed their overall inspection. You see a ton of circular and semicircular or crescent-shaped artifact tools and worship. Here's a beautiful example of a Solutrean tool. You see this like extremely sharp razor cutting edge. You see the indents for the hands, and this might even be older. This might go back maybe into that, Neanderthal, North American Neanderthal time period. But again, you see more preform work. This one was actually worked and flaked on two sides. So you had like a three-sided cutting edge. Yeah, this is some kind of this is a projectile point. And you see like a half-shouldered point here. It wasn't finished. More of like a bird point. Again, Solutrean design. And I think that diamond eventually progressed into stems, and then you start seeing stems way down the road. But this group was in North America for a while. Like I said, 17,000, 20,000 years ago, the stuff starts showing up in my dating of some of the layers I've been able to actually date along the creek. Based on my amateur knowledge in archaeology, to go to school for it in college and stuff. I just don't have an archaeology degree. I haven't gone through the full schooling. More anthropology work, actually, than archaeology work. I did stone tool courses, though. Labs, as they would call it, and a lot of geology labs. And actually, believe it or not, one of my teachers in middle school was a stone napper, and he was our history teacher. And we had to learn how to make stone tools in that class. Now, that was just a quick demonstration. Later down the road in college, we got a little more hands-on with it, learned how to fracture rocks properly. I was never great at it. It's crazy skill, and it takes a lot of patience. And if anyone knows me, I have ADHD, and I am all over the place. I don't sit still long enough to craft one of these. I would be dead pretty quick back then. Or come up with something else. Again, look at the work, the edge work. This thing is so sharp. When I found this, I couldn't believe it. And you can see the edge as it just slowly, they pressure flake it here, all the way along the edge. And they got this beautiful stripe in here, but the back is completely got that patina from where the finger was holding it. Again, we have this circular cutting tool, and you could hold this in multiple directions. It actually has an edge on the back, so you've got this crazy multi-tool. So you've got this edge for cutting. You can really see it now. And then you have this edge that faces outwards for scraping a hide. So we see this a lot in these clever Solutrean tools, like they're 2-in-1. Even though they're utilitarian, they're very beautiful looking. This tells you they had a lot of time on their hands and life was good, if they could set up a quarrying operation like this. That happens in times of plenty. And guess what? If they were setting a quarrying operation up, it means they were becoming more sedentary. And then you start seeing bigger tools like this that are Solutrean, saws, and like wood clearing type tools. And they did have to use wood. They made wigwam looking like shelters pretty much, which is kind of fascinating too, because along the East Coast, a lot of natives that weren't building longhouses later on. Earlier on, they were woodland, Kelly woodland, they were building little wigwams. But these people that were the Solutrean lived in rock shelters, generally in caves. And I've located several caves, but I'm very, very apprehensive because caves can kill you very, very quick. And there's a lot of unknown ones in our area, up through Larmer Park, especially where the Pennypack winds down through Huntington Valley into the city. And then in the Wissahickon and Valley Green, there's caves everywhere. And I believe a few of the massive ones where we can actually find some really cool things are probably underwater because that creek rose so much and kind of flooded out a lot of the caves that were along it back then in that time period. That's more of like this is a flake tool, but it's more percussion flaked. Again, it looks more agriculture than it does warlike. It looks like a reaper clearing tool for planting. And I really think planting and agriculture happened before we thought it did, but that comet hit and kind of wiped out evidence of it. And the Solutreans would have gotten over here. They would have gotten over here, and I'm going to put another video up about how they got over here, and it's actually a very, very cool thing, how it ended up happening. I don't believe in the entire Solutrean hypothesis. I believe they got over here. I don't think they influenced cultures that far. I think they were here between 20,000 and 16,000. I think they had about a 4,000 year window. Something else either happened or I don't know. But there's this vacant period. Anyways, please subscribe, but I just want to show you how we start separating the tools by material to show efficacy and pattern. And it's not just finding one of something, it's finding the same shape over and over again with the same general material. Another example of efficacy, you have like preforms that were stopped or broken that were stemmed. We got one here and one here. These are found right near each other in the same day. And they're even cooler when you find them not done. You start getting some idea of how they were doing this with that particular technique. And then over here, it's probably one of the only Solutrean preforms of a big spear that I found. And this would have been flaked all the way across and pointed. And it probably would have been honed down here and here to become more diamond-like. But this one was so flat that they probably would have just... They were so thin that they did not need to flute them. There was no need to create fluting because they could cut a little tiny slit in the shaft to fasten it. And in a lot of Solutrean artifacts that have a balancing point on the diamond here, where they would leave like two little pieces of rock or two little pieces of glued on rock, glued on with pitch or whatever, to become like the point of tying, so that arrow couldn't slip down past its choke point. It's really hard to find these completed and not broken. There's a really nice, let's call this like a Solutrean knife, but it's almost as if you've got like that percussion, Neanderthal style percussion flaking, but then someone came on and carefully did that not modern, but that Solutrean technique of careful edge napping. There isn't a flute, but there's an elevation in the middle of that point, so it's almost like a spot for a finger grip. So it's like a two-sided knife. The tip was broken. That was found in situ, and when a tree fell over, so it was in the roots of that. Always check those out too, especially when big trees fall near creeks. Check out the roots. So you pull up a bunch of stuff, and you'll find a bunch of cool things. But anyways, artifact hunting is not hard, especially in creeks with Native American names and history. Just go after rainfall, go to the large banks, and let your eyes tell your mind. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at a bank, when you're surveying it, your mind will tell you when something's not quite right or natural. And you just gotta look for edges. Look in the water. If anything's real bright opposed to like a bunch of the rocks with algae on it, that's an artifact that got pushed out of somewhere and is only bright because of the work that a human did on it by chipping pieces out. And a lot of these are quartzes, and they have translucent quality, reflective quality, and when they're struck and sharpened and then used in oils and sweats and stuff from people's hands, turn to minerals, get into the rock, you get all kinds of weird patinas on them. And then they used pitches and glues and all kinds of things like that made out of saps and resins, and they're left on artifacts. And there usually be like a black tar that's left behind. You see it a lot on these like hatchets here, these like woodworking tools. It's like all covered in pitch still. And you see some of it's chipping off on this side. And this is all old pitch. That can be biologically tested, probably, if anyone wants to give me like the thousands of dollars that costs. But anyway, a lot of these little edge razors and scrapers, these are all very Solutrean. And I just, I think a whole lot of people used the wooder to get around than we give them credit for. I mean, to tell me that like if your back is against the wall, ice is coming down, it ate up all your land, and there's no more animals left to eat, and you're a hunter-gathering society, and you have to get closer and closer to the ocean because that's the last dwindling resources that you can find are coming from the unthawed parts of the ocean. And then you realize you can kill a seal and it can feed your whole family for a month. It can feed a larger group for weeks. And then you realize that these little packs, the sheet of ice in the summer, pieces of it break off. Some are the size of Rhode Island, big pieces, and they get swept up by the Gulf Current, and they start making a circular escalator of these ice, let's call them flat ice islands that are circulating from France and Spain to America and back. So with their backs against the wall, knowing that they have to go find seals, they go out to kill some seals. They go to sleep on one of these packs of ice overnight. The thing moves a couple hundred miles. All of a sudden, they don't know where they're at. They're up against another big piece of ice, and then they realize it's pointless to go back because these pieces of ice are moving about 4 miles an hour. It's about 2,000 miles in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's about a third of the way across the Atlantic Ocean. So in about 4-week period of time, nature would have carried them here. They would only need small boats to get from iceberg to land or from one iceberg to another iceberg. Or for longer voyages, and they had boats that could go plenty far, trust me. They were making seal hide boats, and they had all kinds of advanced pitches, and we know people sailed the entire freaking seas of Ireland and the seas of the Old North Kingdom with leather proto-longboats that were leather skin boats, like these before clanker technology. So we know that the Neanderthals had to, because they find them on one of the islands, I believe, their DNA. Like, so they had boats. We give people that have the same ability as us way less credit. If your family or your community was starving to death, and the only choice you had was to stay where you're at and die, or get on a boat and just go try to live, you're going to pick that second option. Unless you're super sick and can't make the travel, or, that kind of thing. But anyways, just throwing it out there. Again, this video is kind of all over the place, but I wanted to show you that cool tray of soapstone artifacts. As I started going through everything, because like this whole thing's filled, all those Tupperwares are all hatchet heads and artifacts. All those things are filled. I've got baskets under the bed. There's so much stuff, and I have to clear a lot of this out, because I only have to set up like this to make videos. Otherwise, I have organized, packed all the way. And I'm going to move it all down hither downstairs, and we have a place for it down there ready to go, but it's going to take a lot of work. So if I don't have a lot of videos out, that's what I'll be doing. And I'll catch y'all. Check out my music if you haven't. If you already have and hate it, that's fine. I didn't get a lot of viewers until I started putting up videos about rocks and artifacts and things like that. So, but if you got here because of that and you're into like Nirvana or rock or any kind of new age like folk type music, you could check it out. Again, it's Happy Lost Souls. Please subscribe. If you want to like get in contact with me to have like a serious talk about anything, and you're not like a troll, you can DM me at Happy Lost Souls 27. That's where you can reach out to me, and I'll take a few days usually to get back to you. But if I don't, it's because something came up, and this isn't a paid gig, so I do apologize. And I have to have to communicate more with people, but it's just a lack of time. And if I don't have the time, I don't want to start something and leave somebody hanging. I've done that a couple times, and that feels awful. So I want to be in it for like the long haul. Someone has serious collaboration they want to do. So I also have to be in a spot in my life to be able to do that. So, but anyways, I'll keep putting out new content as I find new stuff and as I research more and other people find stuff out there and new ideas are brought forward that start proving that some of the old theories tossed out there, or hypotheses tossed out there, might slowly become actual theories. So anyways, love you all. Please subscribe. Bye.